Welcome, world, to another episode of Nobody's a Nobody podcast with me, Mike McVeigh. Today's guest is actually not a first-time guest, but it is a first-time interview. We are having Curtis McMurtrey, our immunologist. He is coming in and we're giving the actual interview that was originally scheduled back in June, but we moved things around to conquer the COVID-19 stuff. Our hot dog song of the week presented by Jarvix is going to be Bo Mansfield, and it might seem like we planned for it, having our immunologist being the guest and our mini-sode from last week, but his song Masks is actually just a piece of coincidence. I would like to bring your attention to One OKC, and they have their coffee club. For as little as $5 a month, you can help bring literacy back to people who don't always have a chance, mostly kids, but that's oneokc.org/coffee club. This week has been a full week of recording interviews with future guests, and they are some really good episodes. I'm looking forward to producing those. But one thing that you, the listener, can do to help me is go to RateThisPodcast.com/nobody and just follow the instructions and leave a review. The more reviews that come my way, the more likely other people will hear these stories that I believe are worth listening to. And I'm going to read out a couple reviews that have come my way. The first one is from Roja Retort, and they said, "Clever premise that focuses on the everyday person. Each episode shows us in a clever and interesting way that everybody is actually a somebody. Well done." And then I have from KWOKC1, who said, "Great podcast. Mike does a fantastic job getting people to tell their story and share their experiences. The best is that his guests are all so vastly different, it makes each episode feel new and fresh. It definitely keeps my attention, and I love hearing from so many different walks of life. I highly recommend." So if you would like to have your opportunity to have your review read on this podcast, I'll even read the bad reviews as long as it doesn't cuss me out too much. But you help me by leaving reviews and leaving ratings. Also, I have looked at some of my statistics, and we have people all over the world listening in. We have people as far away as Australia, so thank you, mate. That was probably a horrible, horrible thing to say, but I'm sorry. We have Ireland, Northern Ireland, Great Britain, Belgium. We have some friends in Kenya who've listened to several episodes, as well as all over the United States. And I just want to thank you so much for listening to these episodes. It is a true delight to record, and I hope you're enjoying them. If you ever have any feedback whatsoever, feel free to contact me at mike.w.mcveigh@gmail.com. We're now going to the part where we're just going to talk to Curtis. We cut out some of the COVID-19 things and went straight to the interview that should have been recorded before. So let's jump into the conversation as always. Man, it's been a couple years since we've seen each other.
Oh, yeah. A long time, actually.
Yeah. So we've been at this house since 2014, and I think that's the last time I saw you and Lynette.
Oh, yeah, because you guys picked up that, was it a barbecue or something?
A refrigerator.
A refrigerator, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
The one that didn't work for you, and it worked for us for, I think, about 5 minutes before we decided that it didn't work for us well enough.
Oh, no.
That's all right. That's all right. So how are you doing overall?
Pretty good, I guess. I mean, we're just now getting done with a bunch of research, so I'm kind of more relaxed now than before.
So this is actually kind of a good time then, huh?
Yeah, it's a good time because I was slammed pretty much until the beginning of this month.
Okay.
And at the beginning of this month, I just kind of backed off a lot, actually. So.
Right. I saw that you guys got a new addition to your family today.
Oh yeah, my dog. Yeah. Well, we didn't really want a dog, and Lynette decided that. Well, since everything was shut down, Katie didn't really get a proper birthday party, so she thought that it would be a good idea to let her have a dog.
And do I understand this is the second new dog?
So this is the second. So she let Katie have a dog, and then Katie was like, Avery was jealous of Katie's dog. And so, like, one of Lynette's friends breeding these tiny dogs, and so we decided to get her get Avery one too. So they're both super. Like I think Ghibli was the first one. He's maybe 13 weeks. So he's still pretty young, and then this one is 16 weeks old. So they're like super young puppies. But
does that make you guys now a family of 6?
yeah, no, well, I guess it'd be 7 because we adopted my wife's sister,
Okay.
Chloe. And we've had her since she was 9, I think, and she's 16. So yeah, so we've had her for oh man, is that 7 years? So yeah, we've had her and she's part of the family. So she can drive now, so that's really good to have a teenager who can drive because she can go get pizza, she can go to Walmart run, and
Absolutely.
I don't have to leave, so that's good. Also, school's not in session or anything, so I'm not worried about her like driving crazy. And so, do you remember John Kratz?
Yeah, I remember John.
Yeah, like, do you remember his band?
I know they're.
Oscura?
Yeah, I remember when they actually first started. My first time at SNU was when John was a
Yeah,
freshman, and they were the Brethren, and
yeah, the Brethren.
then they
Yeah,
became Claroscuro, and I got their
yeah,
CD and everything.
yeah. I found their CD the other day, actually, like in a stack, and I was like, yes. I
Yeah,
was totally a groupie for those guys too.
those guys were awesome.
Yeah.
They had both the. Because did you ever hear them when they had Julius Sana playing guitar for them, or did you hear after?
Yeah, yeah. He was. That was that Brethren too. He was
Yeah,
doing
that was
that.
he was the Brethren as well.
Yeah, I think he did. He wasn't playing guitar for when they were in Claroscuro, I think, right? Because it was
Yeah, DeLong. I can't remember his first name,
yeah, Ray
but he played.
DeLong,
Yeah, he played sax for him and
and
did.
then the brother and sister. I forget their names.
Yeah, Sergio Moreno,
Sergio.
and I don't remember
Yeah,
his sister's name because she came in after, in the time that I was out of college, and then when I came back, all of a sudden it's Claroscuro and it's a little bit
yeah,
more
yeah.
world-like instead of deep kind of bluesy jazz kind of like.
Oh yeah, man. I was totally like every weekend. I was such a groupie, man. Well, Aaron Kratz. Like we were pretty good friends,
Hmm.
and so like we would go hang out and like well, it was Aaron. What was her last name? I forgot her maiden name. But yeah. So we would just like every weekend, man. We were like, I was there with all the Kratz people, like Dave and John
Right.
and Kayla when
Hmm.
she was at SNU for a little while. So I was like total groupies. They played at some weird places too, man. They played at this one. It was like a church, but it was like a New Age church, and like they had a bar. It was really strange, but it was like in a church. Like I don't know, not like a sanctuary, but like more like just like an open room with fold up chairs. It was really freaking weird. There was like 3 people in there. Like it was so crazy.
Yeah, because you and Aaron, you guys were pretty good friends, right?
Yeah, yeah. Me and Aaron were pretty good friends.
I think it was when Brenda and I were we engaged yet? Yeah, I think we were engaged, and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets had just released in the theater,
Oh
and
yeah,
we were waiting for. We were the first in line for a showing, which they apparently didn't follow the line. But we saw you and Aaron. You were dressed as Draco Malfoy.
yeah.
I
I was
think you guys
Malfoy.
were leaving while we came in, and I was always like, "Man, that is so cool." You were
Oh
you were.
yeah, Dr. Halliday. That was Dr. Halliday was there. She was dressed up as Harry Potter.
Oh, I didn't know that. I knew because Aaron was
Yeah,
dressed. I'm guessing as Hermione.
yeah. She was Hermione. Yeah. Yeah, I remember I tried to dye my hair like bleach it and it came out orange, like it was orange.
It was.
So
You still made a better Malfoy. What can I say?
oh. I think it was mainly that so Aaron and Sarah Fournette, Aaron and Sarah, they I think they just wanted to see me dye my hair. I think that was like, they were like, you should be Malfoy. Oh, why? Because we want you to dye your hair. I was like, okay. Oh, those guys are crazy.
remember you running a lot when I was at SNU. I didn't know the thing about the Air Force. That's
Oh
so
yeah,
so.
yeah, in high school.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit. How'd you get interested in doing the Air Force, or was that always your goal? Or
Yeah, it was. Well, so like my dad, my dad and I would always go to air shows, and I like fighter jets. And when I was in high school, our high school was Air Force ROTC, and so I was like, well, maybe I'll join and see what this is about. And actually, that was the best class. So most of my high school friends that I'm still friends with were in our ROTC class. And I went to high school in Phoenix, and Phoenix, one of the big Air Force bases there is Luke Air Force Base, and that's where they keep all the F-16s. So like they do all the training with the F-16s, and they do like all the maintenance, and they keep them all there. There's like fields of F-16s.
right?
In fact, like I don't know if it still is the case, but when we were in high school, there were sonic booms all the time when they were dogfighting out there. And so whenever I joined ROTC, I really liked it. I liked all the guys. I didn't like the command structure, so that was kind of a deal breaker. But we had a colonel and a sergeant, and I don't know. We just learned all about airplanes and Air Force history, and we learned about flying. I could have got my ground license, but I didn't. I didn't pay the $60 or whatever it was. But that was our kind of final test in ROTC. When you were a senior, you had to have a ground pilot's test. And so I wanted to be a pilot. And then the recruiters basically told me I couldn't be a pilot because I wore glasses. And I think, at the time there wasn't any kind of corrective surgery
Right.
for that. And so they were like, well, you can do other things, but you're not going to be flying, fighter jets. I was like, oh, okay, well, then I guess I'm going to pass. So,
So how did you go to ROTC with the Air Force to Southern Nazarene University?
well, like, so, I mean, when I was in high school, I was really into science, as well as like kind of the Air Force ROTC. And my chemistry professor, Mr. Smith, he was the cross country coach, and he was a very kind of boisterous dude, and he was always trying to recruit everyone in his classes to run cross country. And he told me, he was like, hey, yeah, man, you should go to cross country. But he told everyone that. And this guy's a little crazy, actually. He got the fire marshal called on him because he was like he lit thermite in the middle of our class, and
Oh my
um,
goodness.
yeah, he like dropped a brick on some gunpowder, and it caused car alarms to go off and stuff. But so it's part of the reason why, like, why I was like in science. He was a little crazy. But so when I first started running, I was terrible. Like I didn't realize like all that stuff. And then that was I think that might be my sophomore year, when I was taking chemistry. And so then I just started running, and I got good at it. So I was seventh in Arizona, well, the state of Arizona, on, I forgot what year.
Say probably
No, no,
2001.
I was 10th. No, in high school, in the state cross country meet. Um, but I got a little plaque, and I have no idea where that is. But
You should have it above your doctorate. What's the
yeah,
priorities there?
yeah. Anyway, then I applied to a bunch of colleges. I was kind of I don't know. I was selectively good in high school. Like if I liked the class, I do pretty good. Like all the science classes, I did pretty good at. But if I didn't like the teacher or didn't like the subject, I get C's. So I would either get A's or C's. So if I liked it, I would get pretty good grades at it. And so I ended up with like, I don't know. I think I had like a 2.5 GPA or 2.95 GPA. It was like low. So when I was applying to colleges, I was just gonna apply. I applied to the Air Force Academy, which I was like, probably not. That's probably not gonna
Right.
happen. I applied to a bunch of Nazarene colleges. So I grew up in the Nazarene Church. My parents both went to Bethany Nazarene College, which is SNU. So they met there and they got married at Bethany First Church. And so they were like, "Well, you should apply there too." And I was like, "Okay." So I should have gone to Point Loma because I was in that district. So Phoenix is in the Point Loma district. So most of every time they had any kind of Nazarene function, it was in Point Loma. And so I applied there too. So I got into all the Nazarene universities, but SNU gave me a cross country scholarship, like for the full year. So I was like, "Yep, I'm going there." so that's how. So it was cross country that brought me there, and then I only did it for like a semester, because I was a science major and like all of the labs and stuff. I had to go to the labs or I'd fail out of my class, and the cross country coach did not like that at all. And I was terrible at SNU. So like once I got to college, I realized like how bad I was. So I made some pretty good friends there actually. Nathan, what's his name? Nathan Chamber. I think that's his name. He ran cross country. He's really good. He's a little. I think he's got.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know who you're talking about.
5'4" from Kenya.
Yes.
That guy is crazy. So that guy's super fast. I mean, he still is fast.
Yes.
He still was racing. I was running around Lake Hefner like maybe even a year ago, with my buddy Sean, and we saw him, and he didn't even recognize me because he was in the zone. And he just like, I was like, "Dude, that's Nathan." So.
Well, did you still have your big beard? Is that what kept him from recognizing you?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I kind of did at that time. I didn't shave it until coronavirus.
Right.
I'm trying to grow it back a little bit, but we'll see how that goes. So that's basically what brought me to SNU is cross country. I mean, I just was like, yeah, first year paid for, sure, I'll do that. So.
So did science take care of all the scholarship that you lost with track or with cross country?
No, I went into big debt. I went into big debt. There were a few scholarships. I had a few $500 scholarships, but not big rides. And actually, like at SNU, I don't think that I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to go to med school, but I wanted to be in science. So
right.
there wasn't that many of us that were in our class that were biochemistry majors that didn't want to go to med school. And so I think there were only a few of us that happened to. So, but yeah, I didn't get any sort of scholarships for science or anything like that.
I do have to say the perception on my side was that you were like Mr. Academic Everything. Now, whether that's reality is a whole other thing, but
no.
I just imagine that you were like the straight A student and they couldn't give you enough scholarships for your brain.
Not even close. I think I had a 3.0 coming out of SNU. And it was mainly because I played too many video games. So, and organic chemistry. So, and actually, my organic chemistry professor, Daryl Cox, he worked in the lab when I was in grad school. He worked in the same lab, and then when I was postdoc in that same lab, he also worked there. So I did a whole bunch of research afterwards with Daryl. It was pretty fun to do that. But
is that kind of weird to work with one of your former professors at
that
level?
Yes. I totally called him like Dr. Cox. He's like, "Stop calling me that. Call me Daryl." I was like, "That's weird, man." It was really weird, but he sat right behind me, and we totally geeked out on a bunch of science stuff, and it was fun to work with him in the lab. So, but I did summer research with him too. But it was funny. I did all that stuff with Daryl. I was organic lab assistant. I think my junior and senior year, I was organic lab assistant. But I got C's both semester in organic chemistry. So there's something very evil called IUPAC, and it's the naming for organic chemicals, and I am not good at it at all. it's like this big rule set, and then there's a whole bunch of exceptions to the rule sets, and you have to do it very precisely. Yeah, so I was terrible at that. So that's
And you're
probably.
currently a chemist, right, or a biochemist,
Yeah, I would say I'm a biochemist, but
and you
yeah, I
got a
mean, I
C in
still don't
chemistry.
even. Yeah, I mean, I use a program to give me the names. Like you can draw a structure in a bunch of these programs, and just click a button, and it will generate the IUPAC name for you, so you don't have to think about it. So
So
I
for all
still.
those people who are wanting to go in science, you can get a C as long as you know what you're doing, kind of,
Oh
sort of,
yeah, for
maybe.
sure. Well, I mean, the thing is like you have to know, you have to memorize some things, and you got to know, you got to have a basic knowledge, but it's not memorization. You have to just know broad subjects. If you like practically, when we're in the lab, we just look things up. Like we don't know about the molecular age, you just look it up. You forget what the atomic mass of carbon is, look it up. Like it's right there on the you just go on the internet, look it up. So there's a bunch of things that I should have had memorized, but I forget looking it up. Like because I forget. You got little tables. Everyone's the same way though. Everyone's the same way.
I
So
believe that, but it definitely takes a little bit of the oomph whenever I think of you as my, social media scientist.
oh
Whenever I
yeah.
need somebody to prove something right, and I'm like, oh yeah, well I have a friend who's a doctor who studies this stuff, and he got C's and just looks stuff up when he gets it, just like
Yeah,
everybody else. But
yeah.
no one else knew that until just now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it was kind of funny because at SNU, I was a lab assistant in micro lab and a bunch of other labs, and I made pretty good friends with all of the professors there too, and because I was always in the lab, and whenever it came time to get a job, I was like, oh man, this is. But basically, all that work that I did in undergrad that had nothing to do with my grades, it definitely helped. So, um,
Well, that kind of confirms the theory that they're starting to say more and more, that it really does have to do with how much work you put into something. You don't have to be the smartest or the highest grades. So it's
yeah,
nice that outside of professional sports that there are industries that you can
yeah,
basically work your way into a good job. Or I'm assuming your
yeah.
job's a
I
good
mean,
job.
IT's like that. Like IT, you get your certifications and go in, and boom, you there you go. Like they don't care what grade you got.
That's probably true for my field too, theology and ministry, but no one really
Yeah,
cares. So it
yeah. Well, in grad school, I had we had a bunch of professors, but one of the professors would always say, would always tell the people in his lab, he would always ask them what grade. And if they were getting an A in grad school, he would say, no, you're not working enough in the lab. You need to be shooting right for that B. He was like, get just enough to pass, because that way you're studying too much if you're getting an A. You're studying just right if you get a B,
oh
and
wow.
you're not studying enough if you got a C. So just get that B, because nobody cares, and it's true. No one cares what grade you get in grad school, because you're not going. Once you got your PhD, you're not going anywhere else, right? So nobody cares. Like you can get a straight B average in grad school, and nobody cares. And so he's always encouraging people to shoot for that B average, and I kind of like that. So
So you literally have to be average to get a B average.
yes, you
Dad jokes.
definitely have to be average. I love it. I love the puns.
where do you currently work now?
I work at a company called Pure MHC in Research Park in Oklahoma City,
And what do you
and
do?
we make vaccines for all sorts of things.
Well, according to social media and the rest of the world, vaccines are. I don't even know if I should say anything else. I'll just keep my political views out of it and let you be the
Oh
one.
yeah, well, I mean, you know, in one hand, like it's kind of one of these things that they took people who oppose vaccines take a tiny seed of truth and blow it out of proportion. So, one of the things that they're correct on is that typically the natural immunity to any virus is going to be better than a vaccine. And that's because it makes you sick. So when you get a virus, or when you get a bacterial infection or whatever, you feel sick. And when you're feeling sick, that's actually your immune system kicking in. So your immune system's causing you to feel sick. And the more sick you feel, the more angry your immune system gets. The more it remembers, the better it remembers. And so typically, the natural infection for most things, if you recover, are going to be better, right? And that's where it kind of stops. Then it starts to go into crazy town. And so, I think there's a fear of, chemicals in things that maybe, are pretty mundane, but they have names that are, hard to pronounce, or something or things get warped. There's always a seed of truth for, in vaccines. They do grow some viruses in cell lines, and those cell lines are immortalized human cells, and that they're growing them in. And so people will then turn around and label them stem cells. They aren't really stem cells, but they all label them stem cells. And now all of a sudden you have baby humans in your vaccine that you're injecting into people. So it just gets warped, basically. So, they're just immortalized cell lines that they're growing the virus in, and then, somehow that becomes grinding up fetuses and injecting them into you. So, it always starts with like a seed. No, I'm not joking, man.
I know you're not. It's just funny.
Yeah. I'm like, that's not even close. So, it's kind of hard to, argue, because there is some truth that, to what people who oppose that kind of stuff are saying. There is such a thing as a vaccine injury, but it's so rare, right? And so there's this kind of, cost benefit that you gotta think about. Is it, you are going to get, if you have the natural infection, you're rolling the dice if you're going to die or be maimed, with like, MMR vaccine, like the measles, right?
Mm-hmm.
You be maimed or die. And, the percentages are low, but it could happen, right?
Right.
Or you could take the shortcut and get the vaccine, and then you never have to get the disease, you never have to get sick. And you aren't going to die from it. The chances are much, much lower that you'll have any kind of vaccine injury. And most of the time it's just it's a severe allergy. And they can screen for that too ahead of time. So, it's say, hey, let's take a low chance of dying, versus a diminishingly low chance of getting a severe allergic reaction. So, the all of the percentages and the numbers get lost in everything, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, it's the same. It's the same possibility. If there's a possibility, it's all the same likelihood. So, you get into those kind of arguments. So you can tell I've definitely gotten into these.
I generally welcome it whenever the rare times that I post anything political, it's sometimes about medicine, and I was like, please let Curtis read it this one time. Let him do the fighting.
Yeah.
How long does it take to create a vaccine for something like this, if on a perfect time scale?
I mean, from scratch, a long time. So
a long time like 5 months, a long time like 30 years. I'm not asking you to give specifically how
historically
quickly.
Yeah, okay, so I'll say, like, in the past it's taken a very long time. I think you should maybe kind of ignore what happened in the past, because there's much more urgency and a lot of money and a lot of super bored scientists, well, not super bored, but super active scientists. Well, it's funny because they shut the labs down unless you're working on coronavirus. So if you can even marginally come close to be working on coronavirus, all the scientists I know are like, yep, I'm doing that. And so everyone is pitching in on this. So
that's funny. I
The
mean,
studies
no,
are happening very rapidly. It's almost as if the entire scientific community in immunology, and even in like chemistry and cell biology are going like 180 straight into coronavirus, knowing everything about it. So, with that amount of effort, it's accelerating the ability to engineer an effective virus. And so, what happened early on with the vaccines this time is that basically there were a few companies that, well, when I say a few, like hundreds, but there were
few hundred,
companies that,
few hundred.
yeah, there are companies that already had a vaccine with other virus. Like they had something that they knew kind of worked with another virus, and like Zika was a used to be a thing, and there's a few companies that have a Zika virus vaccine, and everyone had their kind of way of making a vaccine, and then they were like, well, we're just going to take basically the sequence of coronavirus and slap it into our vaccine and see if it works. And so that's what everyone did. And so there's a company, Moderna, that is probably they've probably gotten the most attention because they were endorsed by Fauci and the NIH. And actually, the NIH is helping them with some of their analysis. But they've taken the spike protein from coronavirus and the kind of like little, you've seen the pictures, right? Little kind of red spiky things on the
Right,
outside. So they
right.
just take that protein and they put it in a piece of messenger RNA, and then they inject it into you with a special formulation, and then your body expresses that protein, and then your body recognizes that as foreign, and it makes antibodies. And so almost all the vaccines out there right now are kind of designed around this, or designed around making antibody vaccines. So
All right, I'm a very
I
stupid
guess
person when it comes to science, so I'm gonna let.
what's that?
I'm a very stupid person when it comes to science, and so you have to understand my mind is very limited. I know no one else that's listening to this or talking to me right now is limited in the same way that I am, and I say that kind of jokingly, but I'm actually very serious. I struggled really. I had a lot of struggle to raise my science grade to a D minus, just so that
Yep,
way I would
yep,
be passing.
yeah.
Because I've been told, and I purposely try not to research this stuff because I'll just go crazy like everybody else. So I let smart people like you just tell me what to do and I follow it. But I believe that isn't COVID-19 a form of SARS or
Yes, yeah,
so was there
yeah.
not a vaccine for the most recent SARS thing that we can just, add a 19 to it and it all of a sudden vaccines well or something? Or why
Well,
why why is it not that easy? Maybe I should ask it that way.
that's kind of what they're doing, actually. So, so first of all, the first SARS didn't did it came out. I think it was like 2004, maybe 2003, 2004. And it got some headlines, and they contained it. They successfully contained it, so it wasn't a worldwide pandemic.
Right.
And then it kind of dropped off on the research. No one funded it. So there wasn't a lot of funding for studying it. And
Okay.
so whatever we learned in the few years, maybe 2004, 2005, maybe up until 2007, research with the first SARS, um, they kind of understudied it. They studied it a little bit and understudied it, and then kind of just shelved it because that's not going to ever happen again. We're not going to have another one. So that was 2004. So we got other things. We got like cancer. We got HIV. We got other things that we got to worry about. And so when this one came out, everyone went back and looked at the 2000, the early 2000 papers for what happened with the first SARS, and they engineered a lot of the vaccines based off that information. And so they knew that in the natural infection, you make antibodies against that protein spike. And antibodies, they just kind of tie up the virus. They just kind of coat the virus, and make it so that your immune system can recognize and kill the virus. But they knew that in the natural infection you make these antibodies, and currently they were correct actually with SARS-2. We know that people who are infected with a natural infection can make these kind of antibodies, and so um, everyone started focusing on that protein, and it was really because they knew from SARS, the first SARS, that this was something they could go after. So all the vaccines are basically trying to immunize your body against that spike protein. There are a few others that are out there that are for other proteins, but I'd say the lion's share of them are focused on that spike protein. And so, that's basically what happened. Like when it hit the U.S., Moderna was like, "Well, all we're going to do, we're going to put spike from the SARS-2 in our vaccine, and then we're just going to give it to people and see what happens." And that's what they're doing right now. So
Is it working, or I really
they
don't
haven't
keep up with it.
reported. Yeah, they haven't reported anything. I think they're obligated to give quarterly reports because they're publicly traded. So they need to give updates. I haven't seen any updates lately if it's working or not, other than some kind of vague press releases saying that they're encouraged by the results. And so I don't know what that means. But
It's not as bad as we thought it would be, but it's not really good
yeah.
either.
So one of the reasons why they got a lot of attention by Fauci actually is because they're a very practical vaccine company. So they making actually manufacturing the vaccine is a very hard thing to do, and their approach, which uses RNA, it's really easy to make a whole bunch of that. And so they said, okay, well, we're going to use messenger RNA so that we can rapidly make a lot of this. So the government gave them $500 million to increase their manufacturing, so by the time they can prove that their vaccine works, they're going to be capable of manufacturing it. And so they this time around, for the vaccine, you asked me earlier on when this is what the timeline's looking like. I mean, it really is looking, if the Moderna vaccine works, or I think it's Johnson and Johnson has one. There's another one that's kind of far ahead. But if one of those vaccine works, the companies have the capability of manufacturing a large amount of that vaccine in half a year. So
Oh wow,
I
that's
think that,
quick.
yeah, I think they are. I think they're looking into, they want to make sure it works, and if
Right.
it shows any hint that it's working, I think they're just gonna. They typically, will see if it's protective, if it's worth it. I think they're gonna skip all that and they're gonna go straight to manufacturing and just start immunizing people. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of where they're headed. So for this guy, I mean, I honestly think that they're going to have something at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. Really, I mean, I think Fauci's not, he's said this, and I don't think he's full of it. I think he's about right.
Is there anything else that you believe that the public, my 5 or 6 listeners, I've got you, I've got me, my wife has promised me she'll listen to it. I'm pretty sure my mom will listen to it. Maybe your mom will listen to it, and I'm sure, maybe Lynette will be nice enough and listen to it as well. So we've got our 6 people. Oh, and Jarvix, my music guy, he'll listen to it. So we've got 7 people. Of these 7 people, is there anything else about vaccines or just your sciencey science head that should be shared that you haven't already stated?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I mean, vaccines are cool, honestly. Before we were doing COVID, we were working on a cancer vaccine. We still kind of are working on the cancer vaccine, and that actually cures people. So, we had a science paper out where we gave a particular vaccine to people with terminal melanoma, and 3 of them, and they all got better. And so, a vaccine is also kind of a catch-all it's not what you think it is. It can be a whole bunch of different things. And so, it's not big ground up fetuses and they put chemicals in it, and we do all this stuff to give you autism and mind control you. It's not that. It's what you're doing is you're manipulating the immune system so that it fights off disease, and that's what a vaccine is. And so, I think you would find that if if maybe even some of these people who are anti-vaccine, they got cancer, they would 100% get the cancer vaccine to save them from dying from cancer. So I
That's
think
a whole
that.
other discussion that I would
Oh yeah.
love to get in with, because now I'll give a little teaser, and maybe I might have to just do a special episode where we talk about cancer,
Okay.
because have you ever heard of Ph.D. comics, piled
Oh
higher,
yeah,
number
those
companies?
guys are great. Yeah.
And I don't remember. I think it might have been Michelson that got me onto that, and I started from the very beginning, went through everything, and then when he stopped really writing the comic, he started putting out like once a month, just kind of like he'd go visit a research facility of a different university, and he'd do kind of a comic thing, and they talked about cancer. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I didn't really know this at the time, but that they said that one of the reasons why they keep on trying to solve cancer is because cancer is not just this one thing, or even like there's not just one lung cancer. There might be like a
That's
billion
true.
lung cancer. So you might legitimately cure 500 lung cancers, but there's still 500 million that
Yep.
there's not a thing. And
Yeah.
that like just blew my mind. And I'm sure it would blow a lot of other people's minds, just realizing like, hey, I have breast cancer, or hey, I have this kind of cancer. It's like, okay, well, which one?
Yeah. No, that's true. It's 100% true. I mean, they are. They have these really good ways of sequencing DNA and RNA, and they can find mutations, and they can treat the mutations, and they can do a whole bunch of other things that they couldn't do before. So they're really that all of the cancer people that I know that are into treatments are into something they call personal treatments, or personal medicine, where they customize the drug for your specific cancer. Instead of trying to defeat 50% of lung cancers, they are trying to defeat all lung cancers by looking at making you a custom drug, basically. So, and this is where the
This
entire
okay. We're gonna have to stop, because I'm telling you right now, I would listen to you for another 5 to 10 hours easily about this specific subject, because of what it could mean for genetics as a whole, and
yeah,
not just necessarily cancer, but could we insert the probability in our DNA to believe me, we're gonna have to
sure,
we're
we
having
can
another
go we can go down
conversation.
that rabbit hole some other
This
time.
this would be really fun. My shout out of business of the week comes a little bit later this week, but it's going to go not to my local friends here in Oklahoma City, but to my friends in Joplin, Missouri. My friend John runs Bunn Construction LLC, and they provide residential remodeling in Joplin and the surrounding communities. They have over 16 years of experience, and they try to do everything possible to serve you and the four-state region, which is Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas, with top-notch customer service and professionalism. Every Christmas, Bunn Construction sponsors a build-off for the community that if you want to win some kind of special prize, all you have to do is build a doghouse, and whoever builds the best doghouse wins, and then they donate the doghouses to the local animal shelter so they can give them out with people who get dogs. So if you're in Joplin or anywhere near Joplin surrounding area, please contact Bunn Construction LLC at 417-396-5071. But we're going to get down to our circuit breaker lockdown question. I have not prepared you for these questions in any way, shape, or form, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Only thing I've told you is that they're the same questions that are asked of all of our guests for right now.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any easy questions, but there are definitely different levels of difficulty.
Uh-oh.
And we're going to start with what I would consider the easiest one for you. I have no reason why I'm thinking that, but for my friend Amy, who you've actually talked to on Facebook a couple times,
Yep.
not necessarily in a positive way.
Yep. Yep.
What has been the most influential book in your life?
Oh man. Uh oh man. I I don't even know. That's crazy. Let's see. It's probably it's probably this is gonna sound really nerdy, but it's probably my immunology book, Janeway.
I was kind of hoping
Janeway's
you'd say something
immunology.
like that.
No, no, seriously. Like that immunology is a very difficult subject to learn, and it puts it in um, a very easy way to understand. And it's really because of that book I went into immunology. So yeah, I mean, it's probably Janeway's immunology, which is which is what it's called now. So yeah, it's probably that. I mean, I do enjoy reading non-science books, but I wouldn't say most influential. So yeah, probably immunology.
Now, are you counting science fiction as non-science books?
Um, well, I'm a fan of Richard Dawkins, although I think he can be kind of verbose and a little preachy. I like uh, oh, what's his name? Nassim Taleb. He wrote The Black Swan. Actually, I think The Black Swan is a very interesting book where he talks about very rare events and um, how they are more impactful than common events.
Hmm.
So he was a day trader, I think.
So you're not meaning Black Swan that became the Natalie Portman movie. You're talking
No,
about.
no, yeah, yeah. No, no. And then he wrote a book called Anti-Fragile, which I think is really good. And I'm a big fan. This is all nonfiction. I'm a big fan of Nate Silver too. And
Definitely.
probably Malcolm Gladwell and his sidekick. I forget who his sidekick is. Just Levitt.
Okay.
Uh, they wrote Freakonomics, and they have a Freakonomics podcast too.
Hmm.
So I think probably those guys. Um, I have a very eclectic kind of interests. So
I know we didn't even get to cover a lot of those, so I do feel a little bad. Not a whole bad, because I needed to learn more about all this COVID fun stuff.
oh yeah, no problem.
All right. This might be a little bit more difficult, but I don't know how you answered that first question. It's from my friend Mandy. How have you learned to get along so well with people who think and believe differently than you?
Uh, well, most of the time I don't. Well, so no, like sometimes sometimes you need to cut through the logical fallacies and inability to you know give a rational argument and see recognize that there are some things that are underlying that you would agree with that are more important than the crap arguments they're giving. Like
Right.
even in the coronavirus, people that don't want it to be over or think it's fake or whatever. That's more like a cover for they actually want to get back to work and they're really nervous that. And so it's trying to find all that kind of stuff and then sympathizing with that and actually um I can agree with I can agree with that. Once you strip all of that, the crazy conspiracy theory, once you get rid of all of that stuff, people aren't bad people. They just perpetuate, lies and can't articulate their point properly. So it's trying to find that actually. And so, I've definitely got out the cannon on Facebook, and then
Yes, you do.
apologized afterwards for getting the cannon out on everyone because their true point comes across, and I agree with it. And I'm like, why can't you just say that?
Hey,
Like,
if we could figure out that, I'm sure a lot less problems in the world would be the same way that we have those problems. There might still be
yeah,
problems, but they'd be a lot easier to deal with, I think.
yeah.
All right. This might be the most difficult question of them all. It's from my friend Rashad. If you were a tree, what kind of pizza would you eat?
Definitely going with just classic pepperoni, man.
There
Just
you go.
classic pepperoni. Like
You
that's my go-to. So it doesn't matter if I'm an oak or if I'm a birch. It doesn't matter. I'm definitely going with a classic pepperoni, man. Even though you don't want to watch a video on how that's made. I do like that show how it's made, but I don't really care to know how pepperoni is made. I just want to eat
honestly, it
it.
doesn't affect my desire for pepperoni any less for
Yeah,
knowing how it's made. There are some things that I don't want to know, but that one never bothered me.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing, like, Taco Bell gets a bad rap. I love Taco Bell. Taco Bell gets a bad rap. Also, Taco Bell wrecks my digestive system too. So, they had this thing going around with the pink slime and this tube, and I was like, "What's wrong with that, man? It tastes awesome. Like, why don't you cook it up? It's not pink anymore. You put some seasoning on it, and I can kill that taco." So,
All right. My friend Amanda asked, if you were to leave this life tomorrow, what's the one thing you would like people to have known about you?
uh, um, let's see. That I very much love my family, and they're the priority in my life. And I think that you know uh, you know want to kind of leave I guess a legacy of constantly trying to uncover knowledge too. So it's both of that. I want to be remembered as a guy who loves his family, and also a guy that loved the pursuit of knowledge. So yeah, that's kind of deep.
It is a deep question. She's really good at that. And I do have to say, I'm going to probably cut this part out because it's a great sacrifice that on your wife's birthday, you're willing to take a couple hours to interview.
Oh yeah, I told her that she was like, yeah, go for it, and I was like, okay.
Oh,
So
maybe I won't cut that out now. Happy birthday,
no, yeah,
Lynette.
no, I think she's totally fine with it.
She's like, one less day to be around you. No.
No, no,
All right.
no.
This is, you're familiar with who Harry Carey is? The
I'm not.
Chicago Cubs announcer. Okay. He
No,
used to be
sorry,
the,
I am the worst about sports.
oh, that's okay. That's okay. My friend Adrian had this question, and Harry Carey was the Chicago Cubs announcer, and he's most famous for doing the seventh inning stretch of having everybody going to take me out to the ball game.
Oh, he
And
invented that.
well, he didn't invent it, but he's the one that's really famous for doing that
Oh,
over our
okay.
lifetimes. And Will Ferrell used him as a character on Saturday Night Live a lot, so you can look up a sketch. But this isn't my
Yeah,
best Harry Carey voice. If you were a donut, would you eat yourself?
absolutely. Love donuts. Heck yeah. I would at least take a nibble on the side, and see if it hurt. So
So if it didn't hurt, you might be tempted to eat too much of yourself.
yeah, I think I'd be the snake eating snake, man. I would eat myself, man. Yeah, I love donuts. Donuts are great. All sorts of donuts.
So which donut would you be?
I
It's not part of the question, but I'm just curious.
probably apple fritter and not a bear claw. My
Mm.
my my friend Sean might listen to this, and we used to go to the university cafeteria and pick up a donut for lunch, and they had apple fritters. They're amazing. I don't know who made them, but they were awesome at the hospital. And he would call them bear claws. I was like, man, that's not a bear claw. Bear claw has like almonds or something on it. Like it's not bear claw. It's an apple fritter, man. It's got apples in it. Like, so I'll probably go with an apple fritter.
Nice. Well, those are all the circuit breaker lockdown questions. If one of our listeners who doesn't already know you or have easy contact to you, what would be the best way for someone to contact you if they had questions about anything or everything that you do?
Probably tag me on Facebook. I think that's typically the only thing I'm on. Uh, like, I'm either at work or on Facebook. So, I haven't quite figured Twitter out. Although I sound like an old man. Like, oh, the Twitter's for the little one. I don't
You're
know.
almost 40, aren't you?
I am. I'm all up there. I'll be 39 in December. But yeah,
You're getting old.
yeah, I guess I am an old man. All right. Well, this old man only has Facebook, so so you can probably search. There's not too many. My dad's name is Curtis McMurtrey, so currently I'm all decked out in the biosafety level 3 paraphernalia inside of the biosafety 3 at the Health Science Center. So that's my picture right now. But there's 2 Curtis McMurtreys on there, and I'm the youngest looking one. So yeah, that's probably how you should get a hold of me.
Well, I'm definitely going to have a separate, at least one more interview with you sometime in the near future to talk about cancer and maybe some
Sure,
other
yeah.
things in your life. Yeah, hey, what are you doing today? Oh, I'm just going to talk to someone about cancer.
Yeah. Well,
Why
see that
are you okay? Are you okay? Oh yeah,
it's
yeah. We're just going to talk about it's cancer.
well, sometimes I think people don't believe me a little bit because they're like, we're working on cancer. I was like, yeah, I'm working on cancer. And then like COVID-19, there, I was like, yeah, I'm working on coronavirus right now. We're doing a coronavirus vaccine. They're like, what? How are you doing all that? And so it's not because of that. It's because I'm an immunologist. And so, it doesn't matter what the disease is. The immune system does a trick, and we try to. So, I would say I consider myself an immunologist. And so that's why we work on all sorts of things: cancer, infectious disease, and autoimmunity. So we do a whole bunch of different stuff.
Hot dog. Hot dog. Hot dog.
Hey listeners, it's Jarvix again with my hot dog song of the week. If you caught the last mini-sode of Nobody's a Nobody podcast, you'll remember that masks were the prevalent subject due to the ongoing pandemic. Masks, in a way, have become one of the buzzwords of our time, adopting a new meaning beyond what we've traditionally thought to be worn only by trick-or-treaters and bank robbers. Not so in 2020. On his new album, Hope, keyboard wizard Bo Mansfield captures this cultural change in his opening track called Masks, and that is my song pick for this episode. Bo Mansfield is a musician and singer-songwriter that has such a unique artistic voice. He mentions often that his music has limited appeal due to its anomalous style and subject matter, which is understandable. Locally, he's awash in a sea of indistinct folk indie music that can often dilute the very nature of both indie and folk styles. Bo, on the other hand, somehow manages to incorporate an incredibly diverse taste that bridges American standards in classical music with the lesser appreciated artists of the past 100 years, yet he still has an artistry that is entirely his own. He has been doing regular afternoon live sessions on Facebook during quarantine, by the way, and if you're curious to see this encyclopedic display of music in action, I'd highly recommend tuning in sometime. As for Hope, the new album, it's a do-it-yourself project in the truest sense. Every sound you hear on this album comes from Bo Mansfield and his keyboard, which he uses to layer different sounds over one another. You might think some of this is programmed in a computer, but it's done the old-fashioned way with performance capture. I think this adds an endearing quality to the album, especially on its slower moments, like in Masks, which brings in Bo's love for R&B styled slow jams. It's nothing like any slow jam you've probably ever heard, though, with its direct, quirky lyricism being one of Mansfield's hallmarks. Even if his style isn't your thing, I think you'll at least find his take on face masks to be memorable, heartfelt, and poignant to the zeitgeist. After all, isn't that the job of a good music artist? I think so. This is Masks by Bo Mansfield.
Masks are how we say we love each other. Used to be they prevented us from recognizing people. Now masks let us see through to everyone's soul. Can't tell what your nose looks like or how many teeth you have in your head. I can tell you're on my side anyway. At least you're not wishing me dead. Masks, tell the world you care about it. Who would have thought we'd ever see a day like this? But there it is. Used to be dance parties where people covered up their faces. Everyone there was high, pretending they were social graces. But now it's life and death and you and me. Masks, let us start to be human again, which we haven't been since I don't know when. Won't you be my cloth-faced friend?
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Thank you to Curtis McMurtrey for allowing me to run this interview, for Jarvix for providing a wonderful song for Bo Mansfield, and thank you for that. Please support 10kc.org/coffee club. Support John Bunn's Bunn Construction LLC in Missouri. We want to just thank you so much for listening. We want you to be safe. If you have a chance, check out RateThisPodcast.com/nobody. And let's look forward to the next adventure that this podcast is going to provide. Until then, remember that nobody's a nobody. See you next time.